My mother of 10 did not sleep in my father's room. If she ever slept in Dad's room the next morning, Mom would come out crying one day. Mom was sleeping, then I took her blanket and went to Dad's room. Then what Dad did to me, thinking that it was Mom, will shock you when he opened my eyes as a my mom crying. She was sitting near my bed crying. A lot of ways hurt my heart to see my mother like that, but I never could ask her anything. Often in the morning, Mom was in that condition. A while ago I asked Mom why she cried so much and left Dad's room every morning, but Mom didn't answer and scolded me. Very time Mom came out of her room, she had every strange appearance. Her hair disheveled and old clothes seemed to transmit a strange compulsion. All this had started a few years ago. And as I was becoming aware, everything became more and more amazing to me. A passion was born in me for what my father did with my mother all night. This question disturbed me. Now I was 15 years old and I began to understand many things. Well, when I saw my mother's crying face, I felt a warning of some kind of helplessness. But the surprising thing was that when Mom left the room, she was crying. And when Dad left the room, there was a lovely smile on his face. He looked very young, and he kept humming something as if he was very happy. And Mom's state was after leaving Dad's room, I was even afraid to pass in front of him again. I used to send him breakfast to his room. In my hand, she stayed in the kitchen all the time and kept crying, or he locked himself in the bathroom. Mom's state, I felt very pity. I used to study in the 10th class after giving breakfast. I used to leave home to go to school, but thoughts of Mom haunt me all the time. I have never seen my father worried or restless in the morning. He always sat down to have breakfast with much joy, and his face looked very happy. Looking at Mom, it seems like anything could happen to her at any moment. Many times I had seen Mom tremble while preparing breakfast. My heart wanted me to ask Mom what Dad does with her at night that makes her so miserable, but at the mention of Dad's name, fear appeared on Mom's face. Mom would not go to sleep in Dad's room every night. She's left with me. Instead, sometimes Dad would take Mom with him by force to the room, and Mom would try to resist, but Dad would not listen to Dad's voice. He had a love so sweet that anyone who saw her would be surprised. But I knew well that Dad would do something wrong if Mom was in the room. It is very difficult to see the mother cry and suffer for any child, and the same thing happened to me. I could not concentrate on my studies, nor did I feel comfortable at home. My heart wanted me not to let my mother go to Dad's room in any way, but I could not persuade it Dad in any way. Dad used to come very lovingly in front of me with Mom. The atmosphere of the house had disturbed me so much that I failed miserably in the midterm exam. Not tell me and Dad about their salt, but my friend was shocked because I was very good in studies. She started asking me repeatedly where was my focus. I told her about Mom and Dad. Your dad watches English movies, suddenly asked Saloni. I looked at her confused, couldn't understand what was the purpose of the English movie, and she was looking at me with a different perspective. She changed the topic, but my thoughts got stuck on her words. After all, why did Saloni ask this question? When I came back home, my Mom's cousin's brother, Arian's uncle, was sitting with my Mom. He used to come to her house in the evening. She and Mom have been good friends since childhood. Mom used to tell me that they lived together in their childhood. Then Arian's uncle left for Dubai. My Mom got married to Dad. Mom's marriage had been 7 years ago, and I was their only daughter. Maybe everything was fine a few years ago. Maybe was just young and naive. Over the past few years, I have come to understand my mother's situation very well. I knew that my father was not a good man. He was the reason for my mother's suffering. This very thing had created enmity in my heart towards my father. My Aryan uncle had very good friendship with my mother. He returned to India just a year ago and used to come to see Mother frequently. But Mother did not like them to come. After Aryan's uncle left, Mother often tells me that if my father came to know that Deo came to receive us, it would be very bad. Let us make sure that he also brings a lot of things for me. Because Father's income was so low that even making ends meet was difficult. Mother lived her life with such a cruel man. I don't know how. At night, I would arrange my mother in Mother's bed and sleep with her. After a while, Father came in. In my room, Mom was laying beside me sleeping when Dad asked her to accompany him. Mom refused in a low voice. I didn't open my eyes. I wanted to hear what Dad was saying to Mom. Come on, criticize. I won't disturb you at all, reached my ears. Dad's voice that had the sweetness of love. I don't want to go with you. You should think that now our daughter has grown up, has started to question and think. But you don't care, Mom replied to Dad in a low voice. Dad forcefully grabbed Mom's hand and took her with him. Started to feel strange and anxious. I didn't know what Dad used to do with Mom, and the talk about the English movie of Salonial so stuck in my head. 2 hours had passed, but Mom didn't come back. I went to the kitchen to drink water. Mom followed me. Shortly after, I looked deeply at Mom, whose hair was disheveled. What surprised me was that the dream of one suit was also torn. Mom noticed that. I noticed her condition, quickly wrapped paw around. She was wearing the right suit in front of me earlier in the morning, but suddenly how her sleep changed. Mom asked me why I was up at this late hour. He made up a false excuse, saying that he also came to drink water. Mom came back with me to my room. I closed my eyes to sleep, but I could hear Mom snorts. My Heart wanted to comfort her and bring to my tongue all the questions I had in my mind, but I remained silent. Dad had left the room in the morning, fully prepared like a young man. Dad's income was low, but he was always happy, smiling, and went to work, prepared like a rich man. I looked at my dad with the feeling of hatred that I still feel today. I left for school after having breakfast in front of Dad all day. Even at school, my mind was on the stone dream of Mom. Returning from school, I met Arian's uncle. As soon as she saw me, he took me to his car without thinking. I sat in his car without hesitation. Arian's uncle looked at me attentively and started to ask me what was bothering me. Why you seem so lost? I was so excited that it told everything to Unclarian. After hearing me, Unclarian said, you have an idea that your father is not a good person. Why don't you free your mother from your father? How long will you both keep bothering each other amidst their harassment? Unclarian advised me with great concern, which shocked me. I couldn't even think of leaving my dad. My dad had never spoken to me out loud, so how could I call him cruel? I didn't even know it went to. Behind closed doors, between my mom and dad, after hearing Unclarian's words, I was lost in my thoughts. Despite thinking hard, I couldn't remember anything that labeled my dad as cruel, but my mom's pain and tears were proving that my dad was cruel. Unclarian drove me home from school and went inside. Mom herself was happy to see us both, and immediately made us some food. I was very tired, so I went to my room to sleep, and Arian's uncle stayed with Mom. I couldn't sleep, and I kept thinking about Arian's uncle's words all the time. Mom hadn't gone to Dad's room for 3 days, and for the past 3 days she had been sleeping in my room with me. When Mom was with me, she was always good and carefree. Dad's behavior was always the same. The day he took Mom to her room, he felt happier than usual. On the 4th day, Dad took Mom back to her room. I kept tossing and turning in bed all night, anxiously. When Mom came out of Dad's room in the morning, I couldn't walk properly. I dragged my feet on the floor and walked with great difficulty. I asked Mom what she was doing. I had passed by his feet and told me not to pay attention to small things and concentrate on your studies. If your results in 10th grade are not good, your dad will hold me responsible. Tears started rolling down Mom's eyes. She went to make breakfast for Dad and did not come out of the kitchen. Again, after giving Mom breakfast, I went to Dad's room. When I gave him breakfast, Dad started asking me about my studies. There was so much sweetness in Dad's tone that I was surprised by his deceitful nature. He never seemed a cruel person in any way, but Mom's state told the story of her tyranny. It told him that I could not sleep without Mom and that he should not call her to her room at night. Hearing Medad started smiling and said, sometimes I also call your mother to my room. I also have a right to her. And the I love you so much. Hearing Dad's words, my blood boiled, because I had seen his love for Mom every day, but I couldn't tell Dad anything. So I went to school. Insolence. The school teacher told us that we should never decide without knowing the whole truth. Truths are always very dangerous and can destroy a person. The teacher's words had opened another window in my mind. I decided that I would know the whole truth about my father, and then I would free my mother from him. The Arian uncle had promised to help me when and needed it. My mother was just like me. I was 15, but I looked like my mother because of my genes. The next night, I gave my mother a sleeping pill and covered myself with a blanket before sneaking in Dad's room. There was a small light bulb bone in Dad's room. Because of the darkness, Dad thought I was my mother. Because I could see well. I'm lucky that Kritika came to my room alone. Today, Dad came to me very happy. He helped me by the shoulders and sat me next to him. My body was shaking sitting next to him. I didn't know what was going to happen to me next, but today I wanted to know the whole truth. Dad began to look with love. Kritika, our daughter, is growing up. And at saying this, you have distanced yourself so much from Meth that I have to call you forcefully into my room to have some rights over you. I think my daughter, is growing up. But she is not, so you asked to not understand that her parent, Tess, live together in the same room. You get tired after working all day, come sleep peacefully with me. Feel happy to have you near. Amended couldn't see me face because of the darkness. So he himself put me on his pillow. Slowly he started talking to me close to me, or he was saying that he had saved some money from his income, which he would use to get married. After that, what he said made me lose consciousness. He said, no Arian has seen the way to our house again, but criticizes. Let me tell you, he's not a good person, and his intentions are not good. Either he has tried to ruin you, and now we also have a little daughter at home. That's why we should be careful, Daddy. I still didn't know that I'm not this wife, but his daughter. Daddy was running his hand through my hair very gently, and after a while he fell asleep. I stayed beside him silently for a long time, but he was fast asleep. I quickly got up and left the room. Daddy hadn't done anything that made sense to me, so I had a lot of questions in my heart about unclean Darian's mom. The next morning was like any other day, and his face looked like he had spent the night with Mommy. I was silently evaluating him, but I didn't see any change in his behavior. When I came back from school, Arian's uncle's car was parked outside the house. He always used to come into the house waving from a distance, but today he sneaked into the house like a thief. Mommy and Uncle Arian were sitting together in my room and talking without noticing my presence. What I heard with my ears shocked me. I could not even imagine that the truth I was desperate to know was so terrible. Mom was laughing and telling Unclearian that he had planted the seed of total hatred against this father in the heart of my doll. And now the day is not far when my daughter will oppose her father. That old man has forced me into this relationship. But now I want freedom. He takes me to his room and falls asleep while talking to me, but as soon as he leave ruin my situation. I have implanted the idea in the heart of the doll that his father is committing a crime against me one day, even in myself. For the sleeve of my suit, I want my daughter to become my shield when I speak to that old man about my freedom. I don't have to leave my doll in his home. My daughter will tell the world the story of my innocence in the face of her father's cruelty, and I will be a part of your life with the doll. The Aryan uncle laughed and said, yes, I have also told your daughter that whenever she needs my help, I will go. My mother started telling my Aryan uncle not to betray me like the first time, once before you left me halfway and left. That moment, my husband forgave me and accepted me back. The Aryan uncle took my mother's hand and said I had made your hand powerless because my family members were completely against the idea of me having a relationship with a married woman. But now there is noon to stop me. I will adopt you and your daughter with all my heart. Just don't let Guria know the truth that her father is not. It's cruel, but we want to prove that it's cruel. Guria is the only one who can unite us. My mother and my Uncle Larry were convinced that everything would happen as they had planned. Both were tired of laughing, and the ground had slipped from under my feet. My mother was not only betraying me, but so was my father, sitting in my father's house with another man. Looking about new relationships, I remembered what Dad had said before. I knew a lot about that, and Uncleary saw meth. They were shocked. They regained control. After a while, Uncleary offered Meech. Okaleda looked at Mom's face and asked sternly what exactly was her problem with Dad. Mom had already realized that her Lee had been exposed, so with hesitation she told me the whole truth. Mom loved her Uncle B for getting married, but her Uncleary left work in Dubai instead of marrying. She childhood love did not fade, and the color of Uncle Ari's love remained rooted in Mom's heart. Mom's relatives liked that, for her mom was young and beautiful, while Dad was 10 years older and dark-skinned. Although Uncle Ari was handsome, Mom's relationship with Dad was the family's choice, and she married him under pressure from her family. However, she never really accepted Dad wholeheartedly. This forced relationship was like a burden on Mom. But somehow she managed to move on. That's why barely a year after getting married, I came to Mom's lap. 8 years after Mom's marriage, Uncle Ari returned from Dubai to spend a few days, and seeing Mom again ignited her feeling. Mom, also driven by the love and emotions of her childhood, started getting to know Uncle Ari's secret. But within a few days, Ari and Uncle's mother came to know about this and started to tarnish my mother's reputation in the whole family. My father truly loved my mother, so he saved her from being insulted and proved that all these accusations were false. When my father supported my mother, the whole family was left alone in silence. My mother could not reach my maternal grandfather's hands. She was strict with my Aryan uncle and sent them back. By force, the passion of love had turned into a war, which Aryan uncle had revived a few years ago. Me uncle came to India permanently, and once again went crazy behind my mother. Mom never liked my father from day one. Our circumstances were not special either. While Aryan uncle had money from Dubai, and leaving Dad for my mother was not difficult. But the problem was that Dad also, I loved him very much, and my mother also couldn't live without me. Mother intentionally created this whole game and proved that Daddy was wrong. Mom wanted to take me with her by gaining sympathy. So she made Daddy a villain in front of me and started living herself as a victim. For many years, I had been thinking that my faith never spoketus out louds, so how could I commit such an atrocity against my mother in a closed room? I clearly told my mother that if she wanted to go to Aryan's house, she could go, but I couldn't leave my innocent and loyal father, the Aryan uncle who had already abandoned my mother twice before. I was sitting there and waiting for a third time. Izo in my Aryan uncle's eyes for the first time that he had only one and only wish, and I knew that after fulfilling that wish, my mother would be of nous to him. My mother forced me to accompany her, be showing me dreams, bright future, to leaving my father behind. But it was no easy for me to leave my father, and for my father was everything. If I had not seen the whole truth in front of me, I could have made a wrong decision. But thank God I had seen it all with my own eyes and heard it with my ears. However, Mom was willing to go with Unclarion, but when Unclarion saw that he would not be under his control in any way and would not go with Mom, he once again separated his path from Mom and left her behind. Mom realized that Unclarion was not using her for himself, but was trying to take advantage of a family situation for my benefit. But he was a very intelligent and clever person. He had thought of using my mother's love for his benefit. When Mom realized that she was about to causing a great loss by letting himself be carried away by emotions, if Mom and I had been with him, he would have ruined my dignity just like his mother had tried to destroy Mom's dignity. We don't know what good deed he took from us, mother and daughter, from the clutches of the Aryan uncle. When Dad came home at night, Mom herself would order food for him and even put his bed in Dad's room. Dad was happy to see this. Dad loved Mom, and it was his love that had always overlooked Mom's mistake. For the first time in so many years, Mom realized her mistakes and hugged Dad with her heart. The next morning, Dad and Mom came out of the room smiling, and I felt a sense of relief in my heart. Sometimes we deceive ourselves in the name of love to such an extent that we are not worthy of facing any nerves. True love happens only after marriage, in which a person becomes a shield for the other and accepts the other's flaws. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. For more content like this, feel free to leave a comment below with your thoughts or suggestions for future videos, and remember to turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Until next time, take care and stay tuned for more interesting content.